Horse racing in Australia is undoubtedly a big deal. Spring Racing Carnival is internationally renowned, and Australia stops on Melbourne Cup Day to watch one of the most majestic animals, that is horses, get over the finish line first. The industry employs thousands of people across Australia, and of course it involves thousands of horses. But when we started to do the numbers on the horses that are bred for the racing industry and the horses who are currently racing, there was something that didn't add up. One of the backbones of the racing industry is the breeding industry, which breeds approximately 18,000 horses each year. The problem associated with such a high level of breeding is that not all racehorses will ever reach a racetrack. In fact, as many as 2/3 of horses that are bred for the racing industry will never even race. With so many thousands of horses being bred every single year, we ask, where do they all go? Over the course of a couple of years, the Coalition for the Protection of Racehorses conducted an investigation into where racehorses go.
I was going to do another story today, but I was shocked to the core last week by an Australian ABC 7:30 report on the dark side of horse racing. If you would rather some calming images, I suggest you watch my road trip to Newcastle and surrounds and witness the spectacular part of central New South Wales. I'll leave a link in the description below. I'm not going to play any distressing images in this video, but for those who are interested in the backstory of my commentary, I strongly urge you to watch the 46-minute investigation into the horse racing industry in Australia. It's appalling, disgusting, and sad. I'll leave a link in the description. The first order of the house is, does G-Mann support horse racing? The simple answer is no. But as you know, I don't support greyhound racing, SeaWorld or zoos. The simple reason is when you can profit from healthy animals who have no choice in how they will end up, then you know they will be used and discarded as a commodity only to be replaced by another helpless victim. Believe me, I know how much the horse racing industry is worth. An economic impact study of the nation's thoroughbred racing industry reveals it is worth $9 billion and provides more than 70,000 full-time jobs. Thoroughbred racing is one of Australia's oldest sports, but as this report makes clear, it is also a major economic activity contributing to national economic growth, jobs, and government revenues. Just 2 words in that statement gives me the heebie-jeebies. Government revenues. The industry generates upward of $800 million in taxes, more than $530 million to state governments by way of stamp duty, gaming, wages, and land taxes. The federal government received almost $20 million through income tax and GST. So it is clear that from just the horse racing industry, why would you ban this lucrative money-making machine? Horse racing is not a sport, it's an industry. The racing industry is horribly corrupt, plagued by constant doping, charges of misconduct and cheating. The industry breeds tens of thousands of horses each year without any regard for what will happen to the horse after their short racing career. The thoroughbred racing industry is a large contributor to why we have more horses than there is currently a market for in Australia, which fuels the slaughter pipeline to Queensland, not far from where I live. Please watch the report. The link is in the description. Horse racing has perhaps the most glamorous image of all the so-called animal sports, especially when compared to the visually obvious cruelty of rodeos. Don't get me started. Back up, slow down. Such is the allure of horse racing that major race meets such as the Melbourne Cup are even celebrated with public holidays. Socialites spend thousands on designer outfits, the champagne flows, and millions of dollars are gambled on the outcome of a race. However, the black caviars of the industry are few and far between. What is the life of a racehorse really like? And what happens to the thousands of horses that fail to make the grade? While in training, horses may be individually stabled for most of every day, apart from when they're on the training track. Stabling is the most practical way to provide the horses with their high performance training and racing diet. However, without social and environmental stimulation, horses can develop stereotypic behaviours such as crib biting, which is biting on the fences and other fixed objects, and then pulling back, making a characteristic grunting noise called wind sucking. And self-mutilation may occur. These stereotypic behaviours are a strong indicator of welfare problems for horses. During training and competition, horses of all ages can suffer painful musculoskeletal injuries such as torn ligaments and tendons, dislocated joints, and even fractured bones. So where do they go? Well, many failed or older racehorses will be destined for slaughter and may go to local knackeries to be used for pet meat or be purchased for slaughter at the 2 horse abattoirs in Australia, Peterborough in South Australia, and to the Merrimist abattoir in Caboolture in Queensland. Approximately 2,000 tonnes of horse meat is exported from Australia for human consumption in Japan and Europe annually. Over 25,000 horses per year are killed in this way in Australia. Some horses considered unwanted, which is called wastage by the racing industry, will be sold on for riding, eventing or other uses, but the majority will not be wanted and are likely to be sent for slaughter, either directly through auctions or eventually they will have no further use. 2 of our national radio hosts who have incredible pull weigh in on the argument. Now, I like Alan Jones and Ray Hadley. We normally share similar views, especially when it comes to helping our farmers in drought-affected areas. I really love their spirit, tenacity, and commitment. But when you listen to their commentary, just keep in mind that both of them own racehorses and make a substantial profit from the industry. So of course, you will only get a one-sided argument. Just listen to a snippet of what Alan Jones has to say.
I can tell you something, as someone who owns racehorses, John Massara and others, I can't tell you how many conversations we have about how you can best look after them. And when they die, we actually bury them.
Sorry, Alan, did you not watch the same ABC program? To say that you bury them is just farcical. Actually, invite me on your show and let's have a discussion about your evidence. It is easy to slam a reporter or an animal activist when they provide evidence, but to make a grossly inaccurate statement is just a bit uneducated. I heard that Peter Vlandis said 10,000 horses are rehomed every year in New South Wales. 10,000. Who's taking that many horses? There are 5 million people living in New South Wales, but 90% of them are city dwellers. I think, Peter, you're just making the whole thing up. How do you know? You say you're the regulator, but then admit you can't know where every horse ends up. Let's just listen to what Ray Hadley has to say.
The program last night was, in my opinion, one-sided.
And I guess now, Ray, you are about to give me a one-sided argument. Go ahead.
And an attack on the racing industry. Now, the one thing I know about the young lady presenting the program, she knows bugger all about racing.
And I guess you do. Just because you own a racehorse doesn't necessarily mean you are across the industry. Because if you knew a lot more than she does, then why haven't you stopped this horrible end-of-life scenario for the beast whom you claim to love and adore? Just for a moment, Ray, where do you think your horse goes after they no longer race? Oh, to a beautiful pasture with all the unicorns and rainbows. Carry on.
And you could just tell that by the way she presented it. She doesn't know anything about racing whatsoever.
It has everything to do with Racing New South Wales. They can't slaughter them there, so they transport them to Queensland and South Australia. Did you not see the same program as we all did?
One thing appeared to me, and the way some of these people were treated by the reporter, I noted she phoned people and didn't appear to tell them she was recording their conversation. Now, that's illegal.
Yes, it is, Ray. But let's not go into your past, or for that matter, your family. Stop being so sanctimonious.
Perhaps she told them it was edited out, but judging by the reaction of the people she interviewed on the phone that went to air, it didn't appear the case. They were shocked and horrified by the accusations she made about them, and there was no admission that she was recording their conversations, which is illegal. There's a trainer identified called David Pfeiffer from Warwick Farm. He's got a small team of horses, looks after his horses particularly well, and he's been attacked on social media. And for those, of course, keyboard warriors attacking him, you need to step back and understand that there are aspects of the story last night which were completely wrong. And if I was David Pfeiffer, I'd be retaining a high-profile barrister today.
What? You're going to retain a High Court barrister because a reporter asked a question? Good luck with that.
He sounded shocked. Now, Peter V'landys revealed this morning that the horse retired from racing a number of years ago, and is normally the case. It's a gelding, I assume. It was given to someone for equestrian purposes or for, just to ride in a paddock somewhere.
Of course it was, with all the unicorns and mini goats.
I think the ABC need to do a bit of fact-checking. It appears that they're unaccountable.
And the horse racing industry is fully transparent. Right.
They've accused a man of being playing a role, even though he didn't own the horse, he was the trainer of the horse, of slaughtering a horse.
Ease up, Ray. They didn't accuse him. They asked him a question. The question I want to pose to you good people is simple. Should horse racing be banned? Here are some of the arguments why the industry shouldn't ban the sport of kings. In a recent online debate, should horses be banned, 78% said yes and 22% no. Here are some of the responses. I do understand why some say yes. Horse racing is a dangerous sport and both people and animals have died during races. But at the same time, people who participate in horse races are very careful with animals. No, they're not. Once they leave, there is no trace in place to know where they end up. But we do now. If a horse is harmed during a race, it will be transported to the nearest vet. No, they aren't. Plus, animal paramedics are sometimes there. Sometimes? What does sometimes mean? Oh, you mean on the prestigious Melbourne Cup Day. Although it is dangerous, some horses are bred for racing, and taking it away from those animals could harm them emotionally. What was that? Harm the horses emotionally for taking them away from starvation, whipping, torment, and killings? As dangerous as it is, people do everything possible to keep the animal from getting hurt. It is not cruel to race an animal specifically bred for the sport. It is cruel. Watch the report. The link is in the description. Another one says, racing isn't that cruel. Racing is frequently misjudged as a cruel, corrupt sport. I disagree with this, however. Yes, I do admit many horses do become injured while running, but how many athletes have been pulled out of the season from a concussion or a broken bone? Oh my God, are you serious? How many tennis players, footballers and basketballers have we slaughtered in history for a broken leg or injury? He goes on to say, a stereotypical race has lots of drunks gambling on reluctant, mistreated horses as jockeys whip them down a muddy track at least 9 out of 10 times. This is not the case. Racing is a very elegant sport. Elegant. Elegant. Watching a horse roam a paddock is elegant. Take the Breeders' Cup or the Triple Crown. If you believe that the winners of that are reluctant to run, that they need to be smacked by a whip to make them move, well, you were wrong. So why whip them? Also, think of all the jobs that have been made because of this. Grooms, farriers, equine vets. Yes, and I guess we have to think about the abattoir, the workers in the abattoir, the transport truck drivers who drive them to the abattoir, and then there are the packers who sell the horse meat to Russia, Japan and China for human consumption. When it comes down to it, racing should not be banned. Another goes on to say horse racing isn't harmful. Horse racing should no more be banned than NASCAR. If NASCAR racing is banned altogether, then people should consider implementing a ban on all racing, including horse racing. The horses are bred to race, just as greyhounds are bred to race. There is nothing wrong or immoral about horse racing. And I guess your point is that the cars in NASCARs are bred to race, and eventually the cars will be crushed to make razor blades, and the sound of crushing metal must be excruciating to watch. You're an idiot. Sure, it's got problems, but it doesn't mean you have to ban it. Hear me out. Just because this sport has a lot of things it needs to change, it doesn't mean you need to ban it. Thousands of people die every year in car crashes, but we don't ban cars. Why is that? because cars are getting safer every year with new technology. So why can't horse racing improve its regulations and become a great activity to participate in? Well, you are conflating the two. Horses are killed not by the riders, but by the industry. Again, the cars aren't the ones being killed on the roads or killed to be thrown on the scrap metal heap. It is of course sad for every driver of a vehicle that is killed. They get a funeral and families mourn over the tragedy. The pathetic slaughterhouse workers celebrate the killing of these defenceless animals. And then you have this from the CEO of Racing New South Wales, Peter Vlandis.
Some of these people that are going out and attacking thoroughbred racing, what are they doing about the domestic animals, the pets that are abandoned? And what about the 6,000 dogs that are euthanised each year? What about the 14,000 cats that are euthanised each year? And
I think the difference here is, Peter, that thoroughbred racing is a sport and it's regulated.
But why aren't domestic animals regulated? When you can tell me how you trace cats and dogs, I'll tell you how we can trace our horses.
Not my responsibility.
No,
I'm not a regulator for cats and dogs. You're a regulator for racehorses.
No, but I think it should be fair and to all animals, not just horses.
What an absolute childish response, using an argument to regulate dogs and cats against $1 billion industry. I can tell you now that the dog industry is better regulated than your pathetic, cruel industry. Call me, Peter. Let's have a chat. So I'll leave it to you. Should horse racing be banned? Please give me a more intelligent response than those previous pathetic numbnuts have provided. And just as a side note, here in Australia, it's legal to send racehorses to abattoirs for slaughter. No law protects them. I will just leave the last word to a well-respected sports commentator, Bruce McAvaney, who best sums up the industry.
Thursday night's ABC expose of what happens to some retired racehorses calls for immediate action. It was horrifying to watch. As a small-time owner, it made me feel ashamed. And not to have known is not good enough. There has to be the way we all think going forward. The nurturing of our racehorses in retirement is just as important as the care and training given to a yearling or a 4-year-old champion. It's a complex issue that must be addressed as a priority. It's going to require a unified approach nationally across all levels of the racing industry. Horse racing can be the very best of sports, a magnificent spectacle where the thoroughbred, the strapper, the jockey, the trainer and the owner unite in a thrilling performance, as we'll see here today at Randwick and also at Caulfield. So for the sake of the future, we need to shine a spotlight on whatever might be lurking in the shadows and take action right now.
I would love to know your thoughts, and of course you can support me by liking, sharing, commenting, or even disagreeing with my own personal opinion. And don't forget, if you are new here, to subscribe. There it is, right there. Go on, do it. Now go away and I bet I will have more thumbs up than down votes. Want to bet? Don't worry, if you lose the bet, you won't be sent off to Merrimist. I'm Gerald Pauschmann for The Point TV.
Cheers, Rudy.
Boo!